podcast, we have Varun and Ghazal Alagh, the founders of Mamaearth. And we are not gonna cover topics which have already been covered in other podcasts like their story, how they build the products and etc. And we are gonna be very focused on two things. Number one, how did they crack marketing and the brand Mamaearth? And number two, soft skills for Gen Z. What are the problems that we have our generation and how do we tackle fear? So watch the full podcast to not miss any of the insights shared by Varun and Ghazal. And make sure you subscribe to the channel right now and comment your thoughts with respect to what else do you think we should do to make this podcast better. Mamaearth is one of those brands which I feel have cracked influence marketing. When did you guys figure out कि influence marketing करनी चाहिए? Because I don't think Indian brands में कोई भी कर रहा था. In fact, अभी it's still a taboo, I feel.
We had this belief कि internet पे especially people and millennials would rather trust other millennials than trust brands. And the first genesis of this insight was reviews. That people would trust reviews from a stranger rather than trusting what the brand is writing about themselves, right? And not unfair, right? I mean, for years, हम लोग word of mouth जो है सुनते आ रहे हैं and एक दूसरे समझते आ रहे हैं कि यार तेरे को ये कैसा लगा, तेरे को ये कैसा लगा, and trying to understand that, right? And internet was just making it easy, right? Creators or influencers were not as popular. हमने 2016 में शुरू भी किया था. उस टाइम पे bloggers used to be the big deal. And हमने तब almost 700 to 800 bloggers के साथ जो है over a year काम किया, where we told them our story and sent them our products, etc.
And these are mostly mom bloggers.
Yes. When we had started the brand, right? उस टाइम पे भी the core was to talk to all of these mom bloggers or more informed mothers to understand their needs, their wants, etc. And in the process, we realized that there are a lot of, they have their own communities, right? So there are a lot of other mothers who are trusting them for what they are saying rather than trusting the brand or trusting any kind of advertisement which talks about the product. And back then we did not know this was influencer marketing, but sort of that tryst happened, right? Where we realized that word of mouth is actually the largest advocacy that a brand can have, and we doubled down on that. It was also helping us get the right kind of insights for the brand. It was also helping us craft the right kind of products. And it was also helping us get the right kind of people talking about us.
Correct.
So I think after that, that has been our core. Uske baad se
influence marketing is like a word of mouth at scale.
Yeah, and it's because हमारे पास और चीज़ पैसे नहीं थे हमारे पास, right? I mean, मतलब limited पैसे थे, right? Product थे अपने पास, right? जो कि राइट सो जो कि हम लोगों को फ्री भेज सकते थे और उनको बोल सकते थे कि यार ट्राई तो करके देखो, आपको अच्छा लगे तो आप इसके बारे में बात करना या लिखना, दिस इज गुड कंटेंट एंड स्टोरी.
I also feel influence marketing, and you can disagree with this, but I feel it's one of the fastest ways to build a brand. Because अगर आज performance marketing में मैं ads चलाता हूँ वो इतना shallow हो गया, I'll just skip through it. But if a creator is telling me about a new startup, like fintech में मेरे को नया startup बोलता है creator, and then I hear it from the same second, third, fourth, fifth creator, बहुत जल्दी brand बन जाता है.
I think trust gets built there, right?
Correct.
When you look at one person who you really trust and his values match with your values, that's where trust happens. And then when you see more people who you trust talking about the same thing, that just sort of, further puts it into the core that, you're in the right path, and hence this is something that you should consider. Second thing, I think the way creators or, influencers talk about certain products, the use, their personally, what do they like? What is the texture like? It's like opening up the product for the consumers out there to experience virtually. And if you like the way, they're applying or their skin is, you're bound to buy the product. So I think it works like that. I think that's the best part of it.
I want to compare legacy brands with you guys, and because you have experience of HUL and Coke and all that, how do you feel? What's the difference between the current legacy brands and brands like you, Mamaearth?
It's positive from a perspective that there are a lot of learnings on the brand, what has worked and what's not worked. And it also keeps some गार्ड रेल्स राइट फॉर यू कि आप एक लेवल के बियॉन्ड एक्सपेरिमेंट नहीं कर सकते, आप एक लेवल के बियॉन्ड कंज्यूमर की सुन के यू कांट प्रोवाइड देम what they genuinely need, right? Because your brand says, okay, and a lot of these are global brands as well, right? So वो यहाँ का ही पैकेज है, उसके बाद ग्लोबल की भी एक सुनो कि नहीं ये तो ऐसे हम ब्रांड के बारे में सोच रहे हैं तो ऐसे बनाना है. And in our case we genuinely don't have any baggage of history, right? We are far more hence consumer driven, right? कि यार where is the consumer going, what kind of products do they want, what ingredients are they looking for, so what subcategories are they looking for, what are they searching for when they come on our website, right? क्या चीज़ उनको नहीं मिल रही है, right? ये चीज़ें कैसे जो है इनको बना के दें. तो I think one that just changes the way you shape your brand over time, right? And I think secondly, the whole focus on purpose-based brand building, right? The why, and I think which is a very inherent part of our DNA, right? Ki don't buy the product, buy the brand, right? Buy into the brand, right? And then also look at our products and see what all do you like, right? Close to life. So we have a young brand called Aqualogica, right? And Aqualogica has an initiative called Water for All. Right?
Now there's Ayush as well,
where we put in clean water plants in villages जहाँ पे water access नहीं है अच्छा clean पानी का, and families get access to clean water because of that, right? And we actually share pictures of families, right, who because of your purchase, right, have gotten clean water in their houses, right? So, and that connection is just then very strong, right? Ki not only are you buying a great product for yourself, right, but every time you're purchasing, you're actually making a positive impact to the community.
Don't mind me saying this, but I was actually trying to figure out why Mamaearth is Mamaearth. Like, इतना बड़ा क्यों है? And from my third eye perspective, I feel again the why or the purpose. You guys are doing it not for the money, but you're doing it for the purpose. Even जब start किया था अगस्त के skin की वजह से, I think start से ही वो why की वजह से शुरू किया था. It came from a curiosity of your mother. Brand आपने बहुत बार बोला कि brand तो बनाना ही नहीं था, वो तो with time you figured it out.
Yeah. I think you have to have a strong purpose to keep growing, right? It has to be more than just money that excites you to keep building and keep moving forward. And times will be rough, times will be good. Being consistent is the key. So be persistent, be consistent is what I say. And that helps you build a brand over time. That's exactly what we did. And, the love, the care, the emotions with which we started the brand. Now, seeing the brand grow is, for us at least, is like seeing a child grow, right? Like we see Agastya grow, like we see Mamaearth grow, now we're seeing it's a heartwarming feeling. And then that you just want to be at it. वो रात को 2 बजे उठ के भी अगर कोई प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करनी है, काम की बात करनी है, आप करोगे और बाय चॉइस करोगे, not because you have to do it. I think that's a big difference.
और reference वो could be कि quality of the product that you ordered, आप कुछ भी और बेच रहे हो, right? और quality of the product that you ordered वो खराब quality आ गई, right? और वो वापस नहीं लेना बंदा पैसे, right? तो आपकी पास 2 ऑप्शन है, या तो आप मत बेचो उसको और पूरा लॉस खुद बियर करो, या फिर आप बेच के जो है निकाल दो, कम थोड़ा डिस्काउंट पे बेच दो, कुछ कर दो और निकाल दो ना. अगर आप पैसे के लिए कर रहे होगे तो आप बोलोगे निकाल देते हैं यार, मतलब आधे प्राइस पे निकाल देते हैं, एंड you'll be okay taking that decision. But if you're doing it, for example, for the kids or for building your own dreams around creating an organization and brands which stand for something bigger and stand for quality and some of those metrics, right? You'd be like, hey, like in the long term scheme of things, right?
Doesn't matter.
20 साल 30 साल के game में, this is a blip, right? ये कुछ भी नहीं है, and hence we have to play the long game. We have to take decisions which will ensure that the brand gets stronger rather than the short-term businesses where I'm making money. So I think it just makes a huge difference. आप सोचते कैसे हो?
It's not like आपने सोचा आज कुछ करना है और आपको वो आपका वाई मिल जाएगा. you have to first understand what is it that you deeply care for, what is it that deeply affects you, which is where you can spend an all-nighter to just try and figure things out, and keep doing that day on day. So I think identifying that is very important.
और वो थोड़ा ना धक्के खा के आता है, राइट? वो थोड़े लाइफ के एक्सपीरियंस के साथ, द मोर यू एक्सपोज योर सेल्फ, राइट, द मोर यू जस्ट शो अप, just show up at every opportunity, at every place where you think you can learn, or you might be embarrassed to be there, but just show up, because you don't know what will trigger that thought or that opportunity in your mind कि बॉस हाँ ये तो इंटरेस्टिंग है यार, ये तो ये लोग कर नहीं पा रहे हैं, मतलब मुझे आता है, मैं कर सकता हूँ, मुझे लगता है, मतलब वो showing up matters a lot, right?
That's key.
डू यू थिंक दैट इतने बड़े हो गए ब्रांड्स, ये क्विकली अडेप्ट और इन्वर्ट नहीं कर पाते हैं, एंड वो पुश बेस ज्यादा है कि प्रोडक्ट बनाया जो उनके दिमाग में उनको लगा कि ये सही है, पुश कर दो, डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन बहुत है, बिक जाएगा. सो डू यू थिंक दिस इज वन ऑफ द रीजन? इनफैक्ट एक इंटरेस्टिंग स्टोरी है कोक की. कोक जीरो जब लॉन्च हुआ था 1980 से, जब भी दे लॉन्च्ड इट आफ्टर कंसल्टिंग लाइक 2000 people. 2000 were their sample size.
This was the launch of New Coke.
New Coke, correct, my bad.
So what they were feeling was कि यार Pepsi has a sweeter taste palette, right? And हम लोगों का blind test में निकल के आ रहा है that ये 2000 लोगों के साथ blind test किया, तो उसमें निकल के आ रहा है कि people might like the taste of Pepsi a little more, right? And उस वजह से जो है we have got this new formulation, right? It is more on the sweeter note. और ये जब हमने blind test किया है तो better blind test में निकल रहा है, right? But reality is people don't buy brands blindly. Brands have so much texture to them, right? आपकी लुक से लेके आप कैसे कम्युनिकेट करते हो, आपका एक इमोशनल मैसेजिंग लोगों के दिमाग में जो है छपा हुआ होता है, आपका जो पॉप खुलने का आवाज़ आता है, राइट, बिकॉज ऑफ दिस रेलिवेंट गैस कंटेंट दैट यू हैव, राइट, टू द फर्स्ट सिप that you take and the bubbles that sort of come to your nose, right? So all of these put together created the Coke experience, right? And Coke is like a legendary brand, right? I mean, I don't know if you know, but Santa Claus was invented by Coke, right? I mean, Santa Claus used to be this green dressed fellow who was not exactly the plumpy, white beard person that we see today. Right? That was like Coke ne brief diya ek creative artist ko, yaar, we want to own Christmas. Right? And to own Christmas, they had to create a character like Santa Claus, which is why it's red and white now. Right? And then for 20 years, they consistently sort of... So it is one of those brands which has been built with the mind कि 100 साल तक जो है ब्रांड चलेगा. तो आप आज ऐसी चीज़ों में इन्वेस्ट करो जो हमें 20 साल भी इन्वेस्ट करना पड़ेगा, so be it, and we will continue building. So all that amazing brand strength, and you take and someone decides कि नहीं ये थोड़ा टेस्ट बेटर करके इसको न्यू कोक ब्रांड करके मार्केट में डालते हैं, while your blind test research might tell you this, right? But if you would have done a concept testing of saying कि अच्छा एक छोटा सा मार्केट में ही करके देखते हैं, वो छोटा मार्केट में हो जाता है. The big blunder of launching nationally, and one wouldn't have had to learn so so by the way, even after this, Coke actually grew more than what it was usually growing, and because of the amount of PR this generated, right? So a lot of people say कि नहीं ये तो PR stint था brand का, right? But it was a genuine faux pas that ways, right? All companies do extensive research, right? But it's just that India cannot be seen as one homogeneous, pack of people. And you can't say कि यार मैंने 2000 लोगों के साथ इंडिया में रिसर्च किया और ये मेरा वो निकल के आया. भाई कौन लोग हैं वो? Right?
So अलग-अलग
Who are you
country within
building for?
countries.
So I think the big difference between us and them would be we are focused on the evolving middle class of India. And we are realizing that these people are moving up and moving forward in their lives. Right? They're very well connected globally. Right? And they're looking for newer, better, solutions.
Which matches with your why.
Yeah, and earlier, and it also happens with larger brands and companies, they were building for families. राइट बिकॉज एक बाथरूम में आप जाओगे 10 साल पहले आपको एक शैम्पू मिलेगा, एक फेस वॉश मिलेगा, सारे लोग वही यूज़ कर लेते थे. राइट नाउ द वर्ल्ड इज बिकमिंग फार मोर इंडिविजुअलाइज्ड. इन द सेम पीपल रियलाइज दैट कि मेरे को एक्ने के लिए फेस वॉश चाहिए, 3 फेस वॉश पड़े होंगे, 3 शैम्पू पड़े होंगे, बिकॉज समवन लाइक समथिंग, राइट. सो all of that is also parallelly happening, and we are able to clearly see that, and we are very much okay with the fact कि यार कोई चीज़ ना मतलब इतनी सी बिकेगी, हर चीज़ 100 करोड़ 1000 करोड़ का अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं होगा, बट एज लॉन्ग एज यू आर बिल्डिंग फॉर कंज्यूमर, इट डज नॉट मैटर, इन द लॉन्गर टर्म यू विल बिल्ड समथिंग राइट. तो आई थिंक दैट एडजस्टमेंट कि यार कंज्यूमर के लिए बना रहे हैं और छोटा इनोवेशन भी इक्वली जो है इम्पॉर्टेंट है हमारे लिए, बिकॉज व्हेन द कंज्यूमर सीज अस डूइंग दैट, they really find the brand to be someone that listens and understands the consumer interest.
Which also matches with, I think, your ambassadors. So first you signed Shilpa Shetty with the mom angle, then you got Sarah. Shilpa was more on the 27 plus, I would feel. Yeah. And then you got Sarah for the younger audience, 18 to 24. And then you got Samantha as well, right? For the regional and South aspect. What's the scene like in the behind the scenes? Because I feel like you are reading the consumers or customers very well, and you're not taking a one approach ki bas ek le liya and then sab solve kar do. What's the BTS of this like?
Who is it that your customer is prone to trusting more, right? Even when we chose Shilpa, it actually came from people itself that they were relating Mamaearth as a brand to Shilpa, and that's how we got her on board. That's how we chose her. Even with Samantha, right? A similar that market is such, and Samantha is the right kind of, her values actually link back to our values. The way Shilpa is more on the natural front, be it the food, be it the products, be it yoga, right? That holistic approach sits really well with our values, and that's the only partnership I think which effectively works, because if the face of the brand does not have the core values that the brand believes in, there will be a disconnect which will be visible, right? So it's more to do with the value system than anything else. And second, of course, when people see a face like Shilpa associated with the brand, their trust towards the brand will go higher, will go up, right? Because back then we were new. People did not know us, and hence we were identifying what could be those levers which could attract the right kind of trust from consumers to us. So we got the brand certified safe by an external agency, because we were like, sare brands bolenge ki hum achhe hain, but when a third person says that they are actually certified safe, we've tested their products and etc., that trust goes up. Similarly, people believed that Shilpa, and for all the right reasons, right? Well. Yes. It was a long journey. She actually used all of our products. When we met her, we had given her a few products. And then I think for 6-7 months, we did not hear back, and we had actually lost hope that, this is not happening. But 9th month is when she actually got back with full feedback on the products, the fact that she had used it and how she likes it. And, the values is something that she was able to relate with, and hence she would love to come on board. So I think that has stayed consistent even till today. That's how we choose all of our...
And I think the second place where it helps us see... influencer content is very captive in nature, right? You're watching it out of your own volition, right? And you're dedicatedly watching that content while watching it, right? On the other hand, advertising, right, is what's in between the content that you're really interested to watch, right? And you are paying for that spot, right, which is running. So it becomes very important that you are able to break clutter, right? That someone actually sits up and notices, right? Saying, "Acha, ye kya hai?" Right? What that ad is, right? Because otherwise, in the barrage of the ads, right, you'll be like, "Yaar, I was to watching something else. No, mere ko ye dekhna hi nahi hai." So you'll get switched off, right? And some of the ambassadors, right, or known faces, as one can call them, right, helps break that clutter.
Authenticity.
Yeah, right. So authenticity or clutter, breaking ability in terms of, I know this face. This is a star, and if she's coming in an advertisement, and it basically means that brand also has some stature. Have these known faces.
How did COVID impact you? Because I know you guys went from 100 crores to 400 crores during COVID, and online shopping बढ़ी थी because सब घर में बैठे थे. But according to you guys, what did you notice in the Indian consumer change in terms of adaptability to more newer brands, newer age brands?
Because they had more time, they were able to give that to themselves in terms of care, and skincare stands right on top, right? And that's how COVID helped us grow, because people were taking more care of themselves. They were being more aware of the choices that they were making. So I think from a business point of view, that helped. Of course, Varun talked about showing up at the, just showing up. We still remember when lockdown had happened early on. Of course, our category did not come in essentials. And there's this meeting going on in a police station where, all of these Swiggies, Zomatos, etc. were going that, the pharma companies, that we are essentials, we need to open up and hence give us those permissions. And Varun went. And when they were granting permissions, our case was that we are selling baby care products, and a mother should not be like, it's not okay for her to not have access to the right kind of products, right, during this entire period. So we come in essentials, and alongside all of those guys, we also got the permission to start business.
Delhi police station.
Yes. So I think showing up really mattered, and that's how we were able to get back into business during COVID and be able to deliver to our consumers. Possibly one of the first personal care brands to start operations, right? I think we were shut only for 7 days in total. Otherwise, we were operational, we were working.
ये असली हासिल है वो entrepreneur.
Actually, पहले 2-3 दिन जो है हम भी एक्सेप्ट करके बैठ गए थे, सेइंग कि यार अच्छा चलो सब बंद हो गया, राइट, लॉकडाउन ही हो गया, कुछ कर ही नहीं सकते, सबने बंद कर दिया तो हम भी बंद कर देते हैं. And then like 2-3 दिन के बाद इतनी तेज खारिश होनी शुरू हो गई कि यार ये क्या है, right? किसी घर में
when revenue goes from like here to like that was like a shock. We were like, this is not okay, this is not what we can be okay with.
We just talked on the call, और हमने मतलब अपनी पूरी लीडरशिप टीम को ऑनलाइन लिया. हमने कहा बॉस मतलब हम थोड़ी बैठ सकते हैं यार, हम लोग फिर फ़ायदा क्या हो स्टार्टअप होने का अगर हम लोग भी हाथ पे हाथ रख के बैठ जाएंगे. तो हमने कहा बॉस फाइट मारो. तो जितने व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप्स का फैशन चल रहा था एकदम, इतने सारे 1000 व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप बन रहे थे, ये वाला ग्रुप, वो वाला ग्रुप, ये वाले फाउंडर्स, ये वाला रीजन, ये वाली सिटी का ग्रुप. सब में ऐड हो जाओ,
जो कॉन्सेप्ट होता है वो शुरू हो गया था,
सब में ऐड हो जाओ. और जहाँ कोई खबर आ रही है कि देयर इज समथिंग, सम मीटिंग हैपनिंग और समथिंग हैपनिंग,
शो अप,
जस्ट sort of raise your hand and start showing
up. I love this.
इतना जगह रोका पुलिस ने. उस टाइम तो गाड़ी निकाल के जाना,
गाड़ी निकालने के लिए भी परमिशन चाहिए था.
एंड ऐसे घर वाले तिलक वगैरह लगा के भेजते थे कि मतलब जैसे जंग पे जा रहा है,
फोन हाथ में, any point of time.
क्वारंटाइन का साइन.
Yeah, it was crazy.
मतलब तब तक तो पास भी नहीं मिले थे कि आप दिखा सको कि यार इमरजेंसी पास है एक्सेट्रा. तो हर जगह आपको जो है मतलब हाथ पैर जोड़ने पड़ते हैं, सेइंग कि कमिश्नर की मीटिंग हो रही है, वहाँ पे ही जा रहे हैं तो असेंशियल्स के लिए एक्सेट्रा. But I think again, just showing up and hustling and saying ki.
And I think the third trend that we observed during COVID was also the fact that because people had time, they were consuming a lot of data, right? They were online, they were browsing, because you had large part of the work was like on a hold, right? You were not going to office, you were not working itna. And in that process, because you were consuming, you could actually we were able to send the right kind of messaging to the consumer, and the adoptability increased, because when you're getting the right kind of content and you're spending time, that's where he was talking about, right? So influencer marketing never stopped for us. We, for that matter, doubled down on marketing, and we said that we are going to provide, when all other brands were switching off, we said we'll double down. So that also worked to our favor.
There is a quote by Artan Senna, which says ki you can overtake one car on a sunny day, but on a rainy day you can overtake 6 to 7 cars in a race. And because everyone else is cautious, right? और सब लोग कंजर्वेटिवली चला रहे होते हैं गाड़ी, right? और अगर उस टाइम पे चांस ले लो, right? तो अपॉर्चुनिटी है कि एक ही बारी में 5-6 गाड़ियाँ पीछे छूट जाएंगी, right? तो आई थिंक जस्ट दैट एटीट्यूड ना, right? कि बस मतलब हम रिस्क नहीं लेंगे तो कौन लेगा, वर्स्ट केस क्या होगा, right? मतलब जो चीज़ इमेजिन की यही होगी, बट जब नौकरी छोड़ी थी तब भी तो यही रिस्क लिया था कि सब करेंगे, तो इफ यू वांट टू बिल्ड समथिंग बिग, let's take that risk, right? And let's put our marketing money out there. Let's sort of use this opportunity when so many more eyeballs are there, clutter-free media is there, everyone else is dialing down their marketing, right? To actually put yourselves out there, right?
Because you were a parent and you were seeing Agastya like that is where the what do you call that trigger happened कि ये क्या है प्रोडक्ट में देखने का, right? And that's now you realize कि सारे प्रोडक्ट्स में नहीं है, बनाते हैं, that's the problem you're solving for. इसके ऊपर what would you want to say, like how do we get educated, because वो नाम भी बहुत अजीब से होते हैं, वो fluoride hydrate and all that, you don't know what it is, उसको भी गूगल करना पड़ेगा.
हमारा मानना है कि हर कैटेगरी में there'll be activist brands which will start coming in, right? And they will take the mantle of educating the consumer, right? Because they will stand for against these toxins, right? Or against these harmful ingredients, and say कि बस मतलब हमें लगता है आपको ये नहीं कंज्यूम करना चाहिए, इसलिए हम अपने प्रोडक्ट्स में नहीं डालते, एंड दीज आर द इंग्रेडिएंट्स व्हिच यू शुड चेक फॉर. ये कोई सरकारी अभियान तो है नहीं, जो कि एक सोसाइटल मैसेज के लिए गवर्नमेंट चलाएगी, and hence sustainability of this message can only happen if a sustainable business is built on the top of it, right? So because it's in our interest, right, that we educate the consumer around these ingredients, right, we'll continue to invest in that education. And similarly, if it's in any brand's interest to educate the consumer around what's negative is found in food, right, or what negative is found in your home care products that you use, etc., right, those people, it is in benefit of building the long-term business for them, right, to drive that education, right? So in a sustainable way, in a capitalist economy, that is the only way to build something.
Very, very good point. You mentioned this that help मांगने से डरना नहीं चाहिए, right? And I think I am one person जो डरता है help मांगने से, because I have born with this notion of पहले मुझे देना है कुछ आगे वाले को, फिर मैं मांग सकता.
See, asking for help is a courageous task. It does need, you need to be brave. You need to have the courage to go and ask for help. What you should know is कि यार it's okay. It is not कि पहले मैं दूंगा फिर मैं हेल्प मांगू. अगर आपको हेल्प आज चाहिए तो आप ले लो हेल्प, आप जाओ, आप मांगो, आप ले लो. ओवर टाइम दूसरे बंदे को भी हेल्प चाहिए होगी. See where can you add value, right? It'll be selfish for us to say that okay, we need help, we are asking for help, but we will not give back. Or even the otherwise, that कि पहले मैं दूंगा फिर मैं help मांगूंगा, it might not work. See, when you're asking for help, what you're saying is that this is important for me, मैं इसको give up नहीं करना चाहता हूँ, and that's why I'm reaching out to other people who can help me in this journey, right? And everybody at any stage, at some point in time, needs help. And if you have a community who's there to support you, you're there to support them, and it works in balance. There's nothing wrong in it. I think a lot of us have grown with a mindset that I did not ask for it, for that matter, till the time Varun made me realize. There's this one day when I was breaking down, I said, I can't do this anymore, and he just asked me a simple question. He said, help le leni thi. And that's where I realized the power of asking for help. And it's not actually it should not be considered as a weakness. It's actually a strength. So I think that mindset shift needs to happen. And especially for women, if I think we grow up, supporting each other, even in terms of husband and wife, because we are raising a family together, we are at work together, if we are being open about where we need help, and it means making the other person uncomfortable at a lot of times, right?
Yeah, that's the scary part. Yeah.
That's fine. Till the time you're talking about it, you're prioritizing and you're getting to an agreement, because at the end of it, at least with us, goal to ek hi hota hai. Be it business, be it raising kids, right? Both of us are moving towards the same goal. But not just with him, sometimes you have more work, you need kids to be taken care of. मैं घर पे मम्मा से help मांगती हूँ, मैं कई बार अपने friend से help मांगती हूँ, where you know I can just leave my kids at her place for some time because something else is more important. I ask for help from my teams when I have to give extra time at home. You know, I ask them to step up, and they're more than happy. And you know, you give back in the same way.
It's an account, right? And you have that account with people. You have an overall credit rating as well, and as a person. And now the account can be settled in multiple ways. And you asked for help from someone, and you don't need to wait for them to ask you for help. And if you ended up helping someone else also, right, your actually credit rating improves, which helped you.
I mentioned it a couple of times as well, that you started Mamaearth because आपको regret नहीं करना था, even though you're in a very, very good place with Coke and all that. And even Jeff Bezos has a regret minimization framework, right? I remember वो उनको क्या था, उनको salary hike मिल रही थी, and then he was in a board meeting, and then he if he left that job, he would ideally not get that bonus, but he left it because it's like 20 years later Amazon and all that. But I think ये बोलना फिर भी आसान होता है, and I think करना बहुत मुश्किल होता है, because जब मैं कॉलेज में था मैंने सोचा था कि मैं जॉब करूँगा नहीं, I'll just do something of my own, and I was freelancing, I was doing marketing for a bunch of clients, and at that time I was not able to survive much. I was like, अब जॉब कर लेते हैं, at क्या हो जाएगा. Like I did one job for like a month of sorts because I also didn't want to regret कि you know try करके देखते हैं, ऐसे regret में नहीं रहते हैं कि what's the position. That was not easy to do. What do you suggest? Like how do you convert this mental model into action?
2-3 एंगल से सोचने वाली चीज़ें है. One is the angle of any emotion can only be beaten or overcome by another emotion. Most likely the emotion that stops you from doing something is an emotion called fear. मैं ये क्यों नहीं करना चाह रहा, क्योंकि मुझे किसी ना किसी चीज़ का डर है, right? And it applies to so many things, right? It does not only apply to a large decision like leaving a job, and it applies to a very small decision of should I, you know, go to that favorite concert which is happening tomorrow versus, you know, spend one more day on working. And my fear there is कि यार नहीं गया तो बॉस बोलेगा, मतलब कि you know तू आया क्यों नहीं, and I might, you know, lose out on my image, yeah, might lose out on my वो, and that's a fear which is stopping you from doing something, right? And it can be on multiple fronts that fear is what stops you from doing something. And on the other hand, regret is also a negative emotion. Okay. But imagining regret के consequences versus failing के consequences, right? Because आपका fear usually failure linked होता है. Failure you can still overcome over longer term, right? कि try किया नहीं हुआ, मज़ा नहीं आया, या मतलब wasn't as much fun as I thought, right? You will overcome that. Right? Try ना करने का regret. There is no way to overcome that. तूने try नहीं किया, तेरे को कैसे पता कि क्या होता अगर किया होता तो? You might be lying on, like, you know, a deathbed when you're 60, 70, etc. Do you want to have these major regrets? जिसका तो कुछ कर ही नहीं सकता अभी. Nothing. Time is what you're competing with. You're not competing with each other. It's your one life. And you're competing with time. And time is going to beat you hands down if you don't take chances. And if you don't do what you want to do, rather than keep doing what you think is comfortable to do. Because that's what we're competing with there.
I think adventure sport is one thing which will help you with regret minimization as well. Because आप वहाँ पे fear को थोड़े time के लिए face करते रहे. Recently I did skydiving in Palm.
And I was so scared for the first 4 days before. मतलब जाते वक्त कुछ नहीं हुआ, तब चढ़ गए तो गिर गए, फिर तो गिर गए. बट उसके पहले 4 दिन जो डर में था मैं.
अच्छा 4 दिन
क्योंकि मैंने बुक करके रखी थी ना.
हाँ नहीं, मेरे को आधा घंटा टाइप डर था जब नीचे से चल रहे थे और प्लेन में. आई थिंक द सबसे ज़्यादा डर स्काई में मेरे को था जब वो पैर लटका के तो द प्लेन दैट वी वेंट इन एंड दे डिडंट इवन क्लोज द डोर. और वो द डोर वाज ओपन
ऊपर जा रहे थे. अरे भाई साहब.
एंड देन दिस वाज द फर्स्ट टाइम आई डिड वाज इन थाईलैंड. एंड तो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर थोड़ा रेगुलर सा ही था उधर. इट्स बिन लाइक सम 12 years बैक इज व्हेन आई डिड फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम.
फिर तो और स्कैरी.
तो और वो फिर कूदने से पहले से पैर लटका के उसने बैठा दिया. राइट, आप प्लेन में बैठे हो के पैर लटके हुए ऐसे नीचे ऐसे यू कैन सॉर्ट ऑफ यू कैन सी, आपको फील हो रहा है पैर हिलते हुए. आपको फिर एकदम से दिमाग में आ रहा है कि अगेन क्यों कर रहा हूँ मैं ये, मैंने क्यों साइन किया एक नोट पे जिस पे लिखा था कि मर जाओगे तो हमारी कोई रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं है. राइट, और ऐसा प्रोडक्ट मैं ट्राई कर रहा हूँ. राइट, पैराशूट जिसको फेलियर की कोई आप कंप्लेन कर ही नहीं सकते हो कि पैराशूट नहीं खुला मेरा. कैसे कंप्लेन करोगे, आप मर गए ना. मतलब इट इज द हाईएस्ट एनपीएस प्रोडक्ट. राइट, जिसका चल गया उसका तो मतलब बहुत, जिसका नहीं चला वो कंप्लेन करने के लिए बचा ही नहीं. राइट, राइट. तो बट आई एग्री. राइट, आई थिंक एडवेंचर स्पोर्ट्स जस्ट drives some of that and gets you ready to take some of these big leaps and decisions.
How do you feel after trying is also something which is very important, right? That feeling of accomplishment. Yes.
अब बताओ क्या.
Exactly. I still remember when we did bungee jumping.
Yeah.
Right? So bungee jumping ऊपर गए and then वहाँ से तो free fall है. Right? वहाँ तो खुद कूदना है. तो my legs were like shaking and 3 times I was like almost backed out. Right? वापस test पे no.
कि आपके पास 3 chances होते हैं, 3 में करो नहीं तो cancel.
हाँ, but फिर eventually after that how you feel is like the high point, right? So you have to go through that.
See, everything in our body is a muscle, right? And overcoming fear is also a muscle. And the more you practice that muscle,
train it like a bicep.
The more you train it, right, the more it becomes reflexive. And जितना वो छोटे छोटे डिसीजन लेना शुरू करोगे ना, एंड अपनी लाइफ में छोटे छोटे फियर फेस करना शुरू करोगे कि मेरे को कॉकरोच से है बट मैं बैठूंगा इधर इसके सामने बात करूंगा इसके साथ बैठ के. जस्ट लाइक ट्रेनिंग दैट मसल अराउंड स्मॉल फियर्स, राइट, बिल्ड्स दैट मसल. यार ओवर टाइम जो है आप बड़े डिसीजन में भी मतलब वो सेम मसल यूज करो, स्टेप भी आराम से लिए जाएंगे.
I did this podcast with Anupam Keswar, and one of the insights that he gave, which I think you will agree with, because I read one of your posts related to that, was that हाँ आज की जो जनरेशन है वो फोन से इतना ज़्यादा अटैच हो गई है that हम रियल लाइफ एक्सपीरियंसेस लेना बंद कर दिए हैं, एंड डीप थिंकिंग एज अ कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं रहा. आर्ट से जो हमें मिलता था हम हिस्ट्री की बात करते हैं बट आज कुछ नहीं देखते हैं, बिकॉज there's so much shallow thinking that happens today, and I am personally also part of that 100%, क्योंकि मतलब टाइम ही नहीं मिलता एवरी टाइम. मतलब मेरे को तो नेचुरल इंस्टिंक्ट है कि अपना फोन निकालूं और कुछ खोल लूं.
To be honest, it's slightly worrying, as a generational trend, right, as to where we are sort of heading, right. I mean, the technology is amazing, right? And it is helping us as a world a lot, right? But then there is also other side of the coin around everywhere, right? From privacy to just not using the brain muscle as much, right? That chat GPT सर came in talking about कि मतलब अभी
1 सेकंड में आंसर
बच्चों का ऐसे भी नहीं लिखना, मतलब it is that whole industry is getting wiped off कि college essays जो है write essay for Harvard, right, नहीं write it again मत नहीं, keep writing stuff like that, right. And that all of that is, like I said, any muscle needs training, and the more you think, your thinking muscles get sharpened. The more you think about a certain topic, the more you're able to imagine it from different directions, right? Wasn't there? And जैसे लॉकडाउन हुआ उस टाइम, मतलब जैसे हम लोगों ने अपने आप को घरों में बंद किया, अब हम लोग ने क्या किया? How of us watched TikTok, right? How of us became more active on the reels. Half of us became how has continued to doing work from home. जो चल रहा था वही चला. Actually, in earlier times, right, the world stopped. Right? People said, "Kya,
Escape
bachna hai,
नहीं
nahi bachna." Right? Let's use this for passions. Right? And one story which I was talking about from 1816, right? 4 writers just sort of said, "Kya, lockdown," and decided to lock themselves in one house. Right? Imagine 4 creators doing the same. Right? And they challenged each other to write the most original horror stories, right? And 2 of the most recognized horror characters today, right? Dracula and Frankenstein. Those books were written in that 1 year in that lockdown house, right? I mean, imagine what deep thinking can create, right? It created 200 years of history, right? And something which lasted for so long, right? And similarly, for a lot of these scientists, what they created, electricity, AC transmission, right? These are technologies which have impacted human race and will continue to impact human race for centuries. Right?
What's going on? Pehle distractions were limited. For example, you did not have phone. The only way to connect was to meet people, have conversations. And then you had so much time to yourself without any distraction that you were able to do a lot of thinking, do a lot of self-analyzing, discover your passion, spend time on that. What in today's generation, it's more of scrolling the internet, and you're like half the time you're mindlessly scrolling. There's nothing that you're taking away, right? And that just keeps increasing day on day. So I think it's very important for you to switch off, to tell yourself that, okay, this is an hour of absolute no distraction. You might decide to give it to yourself. You might decide to give it to the person that that really matters to you. You might decide to spend it with your kids because, even kids today, they have tabs and they have access to the internet. पहले के टाइम पे आप कुछ सोचते थे, आप उसके ऊपर थ्योरी बनाते थे कि अच्छा ये ऐसे होता होगा, इसलिए होता था. You get into research, you try and figure things out, right? Today you have a question. Before you can actually frame the question in your mind, you're already on Google seeking answers.
Exactly.
And hence that capability of brain to come up with logical reasoning, that's reducing is what I would say. So I think it's a lot more to also just allocate time and then say this is and allocate time for scrolling as well, for mindless scrolling also. That's also absolutely okay till the time you're doing it between those hours and not doing it like whenever. Yeah.
I forgot who was the exact protagonist here, but wildly successful, but did suicide. Wildly successful, मतलब hundreds and hundreds of crores in revenue, whatever you can call it. And he did suicide because उसका जो दोस्त था वो successful था. That was his logic was like I was depressed because I couldn't beat him वाला जो angle होता है ना. And मैं सोच रहा था उसके बारे में कि यार ये बहुत होता है, मतलब personally with me also it happened that I'm in a very good space if I think about individually. मैं grow बहुत अच्छा कर रहा हूँ, but फिर मैं देखूँगा यार सामने वाला तो आगे अभी. तो I think वो एंगल भी बिकॉज ऑफ सोशल मीडिया हैज हैपेंड अ लॉट, स्पेशली द नंबर्स. तेरे 1 मिलियन फॉलोअर्स है, मेरे 2 मिलियन फॉलोअर्स है, बता मेरे व्यूज ज्यादा आते हैं. ऑल दैट आल्सो इज अ पार्ट ऑफ द होल सोशल मीडिया थिंग.
एंड वो तो इनहेरेंट नेचर है यार. हम बड़े ही ऐसी देश में हुए हैं जहाँ पे मतलब आपको बचपन से ही कंपटीशन की आदत डल जाती है, राइट? इफ़ यू वांट टू गेट इनटू द राइट स्कूल, आपको इंटरव्यू देना है. स्कूल में मतलब आपको आगे बढ़ना है, आपको रिपोर्ट कार्ड में ठीक रैंक लाना है, बोर्ड में ठीक नंबर लाने हैं. तो मतलब कंपटीशन तो इंग्रेंड है. 140 करोड़ की आबादी में अगर आपको कुछ बनना है या कुछ करना है तो कंपेटिटिव तो आपको होना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज यू हैव टू बी बेटर. नाउ how can you reframe some of that conversation around being better than yourself, right? Which is why I said competition with time. And last year, how were you? And that was in one point of time, आप कैसे थे और क्या कर रहे थे? And आज आप कैसे हो, क्या कर रहे हो? And are you doing well in competition with time? And is probably more.
It goes back to having a conversation with your own self, where you say that, okay, is it something that I gave my 100%? Or could I have given more? if you did give your 100%, at the end of it, like in sports, आपने match खेला, you gave your 100%, you showed a good performance. You won the match or you did not win the match is not important. Did you have fun while doing it? Are you satisfied?
Yeah.
That's more important. And I think we all need to recognize that. And like Varun said, right? Comparing yourself to others will come naturally to you because that's how we've grown. And that's okay. Usko healthily lena and using that to fuel your growth is good. But using it to further like pull yourself down and say this is
And
not
being unhappy
working,
about
and
it, yeah.
that's gratitude for where you've come. It's very, very important, right? कई बार ना ये rat race हो जाती है कि ये करना है. You don't actually spend time with yourself feeling grateful or thankful for what you've achieved, for the little joys of life, right? That's why they're so important. So take out a moment, take out a second, feel good about it, and then move on. Get back into the race. But that's I think that sort of balances the whole thing out, and you'll never go into that zone ke yaar, while you're being successful, like you said, right? Aap successful ho, but because aap number 2 ho, you're like giving it up. That just gratitude helps you. Yeah, it just helps you fuel the energy in the right direction.
So the singer in the band that I was talking about was this guitarist called Dave Mustaine. And,
Okay.
So Dave Mustaine was a part of the band, and one day, just before they were actually going to sign a mega record label contract, and Dave Mustaine was fired from the band, right, because of some sort of internal complications. And he sort of was very driven that he wants to do something and he wants to build something. So he went out, found the right people, joined another band, and continued his hard work, right? And finally, Dave Mustaine sort of created legacy by being part of a band called Megadeth, right? You might have heard of them, right? Megadeth has sold 25 million copies, right? That said, Dave Mustaine was very unhappy, even after achieving all of this, right? Because the band that he was fired from was the band called Metallica.
Oh.
And Metallica did sell 180 million copies. And so Dave Mustaine was legendary in his own right, and created a brand which everyone loves and remembers. But because his satisfaction is relative to his expectation, कि if that would have happened, aaj I would have been here. But then, hey, you can't compete with time. You have to be on your own. You have in your own universe, not in a multiverse, right? Where you think कि इस multiverse में मैंने जहाँ पे ये किया था मैं वहाँ पहुँच गया था. Boss, that's not reality.
Find in the right place.
All right, we are at the end of the podcast as we don't have a lot of time. Any feedback from you guys for the podcast in general?
There is so much good work that we are seeing young people do, right? There is so much positive energy that we are seeing this generation have, right? We might be distracted, we might have technologies, we might have, impatience, right? But still with all of that, right, we are bubbling with energy. And this is in India, which is looking forward to make a mark on the world, to make a dent in this world. Right? And as a country, we are going to do that. And I think next 10-20 years, ये हमारा time है. Right? और shine करना है हमने as a country. Right? And everybody is realizing that कि boss, अपना time आ गया है. And I just think all the work that you guys are doing in spreading that vibe and in getting people to sort of, get into that hustle and create something for themselves, the synergistic effect of it, right, is going to be magical for this country. And we just want to sit back and look forward to all of that happening here. We just think it's so much amazing work that's going to happen, and you guys are going to be known as people who inspired a generation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Varun. Thank you so much, Ghazal.
Thank you.
Guys, follow them on LinkedIn. They post amazing content, links in the description, and do subscribe to the channel. See you guys.